when you're like when you put a lot of like money into your women's team, investment into your women's team, you build around your women's team, then you can be like, oh, we have weight and United, and we're the biggest club in the world. And you say that as a Spurs fan, I won't even feel bad because our management sucks. They are not doing that for our team. We've only devolved since last year, so I can understand making those comments. But your management can't even build a stadium, and you have put you practically made the women's team homeless briefly in the summer.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of All About the W. My name is Kai. I'm joined, as always, by Ash. Ash, how was the football weekend for you?
It was, I mean, in terms of football quality, it was great. In terms of the Spurs game, it was absolute crap. I'm so upset as a Spurs fan, but anyway, we'll come to that.
Yeah, we'll come to that. But you know what? Let's just get cracking. But you know what? Actually, before that, just a reminder to everybody out there who found our channel to like the video, subscribe to our channel as well. So, what we usually do is we do on Mondays or Tuesdays, depending on our schedules, we sort of do recaps of WSL games, WSL weekends, all six games that happen midweek. We try to catch some cup games. We do some live streams as well. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can catch all of our content. But yeah, Ash, let's get cracking. I think the big fixture of the weekend was Manchester City versus Arsenal. Um, uh, Mariano Caldente scoring a very, very early goal, literally in the 40th second or so. And then you had a lot of Ruben Moy scoring the second goal, two early goals for Arsenal. And then you had um, Man City making a comeback with Mary Fowler scoring in the 20th minute, and then Frida Manam scoring for Arsenal in the 51st minute. Then you had Viv Miedema scoring in the 55th minute, at which point, I think it was 3-3. Um, and then you had Blackstenius scoring in the 78th minute, the usual. It's almost like this, um, you know, typical Blackstenius winner that happens at Man City. Her coming in clutch. But yeah, let's have a quick chat about the game. We went live for this one. What did you make of it?
I mean, it was a fantastic game of football. It was so much fun to watch for the neutral. I mean, not so much if you're a fan of City or Arsenal, I think, but if you're a neutral, it was absolutely fantastic. It was just like box to box, goals galore. But like for me, like Arsenal were far and away the better team. The only reason City were able to come back into it, in my opinion, was that Arsenal scored two goals and then sat back to manage the game, which I think both in the City game versus United and in this game is the wrong move against City. Like you just shouldn't let City have the ball. Like as long as you like the thing with City is right, as long as you keep the pressure on the City back line, City will always look vulnerable. Like that was really obvious with the goal that came from Alexandria's mistake. Like you just have to keep pressing them, and like the minute City are allowed to like progress with the ball, they immediately look dangerous because they have so many match winners, right? Like Miedema and Fowler in this game, and like in general now Bunny Shaw is also returning. So you should just not let City have the ball. Like if you have to manage the game, you should do it through possession, not by like sitting back.
Yeah,
But
I think,
yeah.
that's the thing. I felt it was very interesting. I think somebody had pointed this out on Twitter as well, which I also noticed once I uh, was rewatching the game. So Kyra Cooney Cross had a decent game. But in terms of controlling the game as such, right? Like they started with that midfield three of Manam, Caldente, and Kyra Cooney Cross. And I feel like defensively, none of them are particularly defensive minded. Like none of them are players who can necessarily control the pace of the game. I'm assuming that's what Arsenal believe Kyra Cooney Cross can become. But right now, I don't think she's that player yet. And that's what I think it was it Tim Stillman who had pointed it out? I'm not sure. But he, I think, said that the game looked completely different once Leah Walty came on the pitch because she is that proper out and out defensive midfielder who can control the tempo of the game. And in that last 20 minutes or so, Arsenal did look much, much better. Um, yeah, I think that controlling the game with that midfield three of Caldente, Monum, and Kyra Cooney Cross, I just don't think it was happening. So it was, I think, more of like a personnel issue. But I think lucky for Man City, they didn't necessarily fully capitalize on that because I felt like Jess Park and Jill Road were also not particularly effective.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, agreed. And the thing is, like, uh, I just feel like with Arsenal, uh, when they're in control of, like, they are so good on the ball, Arsenal. Like when the minute sort of like Lualia Walty came in, the substitutes happened. They just, like, the last 20 minutes, City just couldn't get in. Like there was just nothing there for City. And I just felt like that's the Arsenal we've been seeing for the last couple, even in the Chelsea game, that's the Arsenal we saw. Like despite the fact that they lost that game. Um I just feel like Arsenal are really good on the ball with their first 11.
yeah,
So, like, then why sit back? Like, keep the pressure on. I'm not saying you have to press manically the way you were in the first 20 minutes, but keep the ball, pass amongst yourselves. There's a different, like, game management doesn't just have to be sit back and absorb the pressure, you
yeah.
know?
That's true. And I think the other thing that I felt didn't quite work for City, and this is the first time I've seen City do it in a long time, but they were hoofing the ball long to Bunny Shaw, trying to get her to hold up the ball, but Bunny Shaw did not look fit at all.
Yeah,
So that substitution of I'm guessing taking Miedema off and bringing Bunny and Carolyn in, um, I felt like it worked against City and allowed Arsenal to get more control of the game. Like they were
yeah,
able to win those second balls. Like for example, like Bunny would win the first ball, but then the second balls were never won by any of the City players.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
things like that. But I think Carolyn looked okay. Carolyn
Carolyn,
looked
that's what I was going to say as well. That Carolyn looked quite sharp when she came on. I think the bunny shot thing. The thing is, I understand that they needed fresh legs and Miedema needed to come off for that reason. But the thing is, I thought it was the wrong substitution because Miedema was far and away City's best player until then. Like she was the only like outlet that looked like she might score,
yeah.
so I think it was the wrong decision to take her off. If you had to take someone off, in it should have been someone other than Mirama, because
Yeah.
possibly take someone off of midfield because Jess Park and who was eventually substituted as well, but like uh Rod and Jess Park were doing nothing, so you might as well have put somebody in attack instead of midfield.
Yeah, I was thinking similarly, but I think the Miedema decision might have been again like managing her minutes.
Yeah.
I think it might have been like a forced change of sorts for Gareth Taylor. But yeah, I mean, Ash Arsenal did eventually end up winning that game.
Yeah.
But
No,
we have to talk about the penalty. Yeah,
it's so lucky that Arsenal won that game. Otherwise, we would be sitting here and crying about that penalty, and Arsenal fans would not let us forget it. Like, they would be crying about it for like the next 2 years.
yeah,
Like, I'm so happy that Arsenal won that game. Like, it was, but like, it was clearly not a penalty. And,
yeah,
there's a lot of people who were like, oh, you know, like that we can see it in close up and that's why we think that it wasn't a penalty, but the ref can't see it from far away or whatever. What nonsense. Okay, we were uh, sitting in a watch along without a replay, and
yeah,
if we can see it on our shoddy feed WSL camera, on the first go, not in a replay or anything. On the first go, we saw it. We were like, that is not a penalty,
Yeah,
right? Like we could clearly see that the offense happened outside the box. That it was a tactical foul to happen outside of the box.
yeah,
And like if we can see it, then the ref should bloody well catch it with the naked eye. Like I'm sorry, this is inexcusable. And if the ref is not catching it, like the assistant ref, somebody should have been there on the sidelines watching the line, right? Where the like
yeah.
that's standard protocol to watch when they cross the line.
Absolutely. I think the lines person would have definitely had like a clear view of that foul. And, upon rewatch, I also felt like Fujino kind of made a meal out of it. Like, I felt
Yeah,
like it was like there was very little contact, to be honest.
yeah.
Initially, when I saw it, I thought like Catley properly shoved her on the back, which wasn't the case. I felt like it was pretty much a dive, is what I felt.
Yeah, and
Uh,
she dived so like convincingly into the box. It
into the
felt like
box.
like I'm just
That's
like
the thing. Like she landed so far in the box. I feel like that might have been it. Like she
yeah.
flew and landed so far into the box that maybe the ref thought, oh, if she's fallen here, the contact must have happened in the box. But
Yeah.
or something. I'm trying to make sense of it, but it was a really poor call.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, I feel like we've seen a handful of like I feel like this is like a clear cut, not a penalty situation. And we've seen a couple of these in the WSL this season, which is very, very disappointing. But yeah, I mean, Arsenal now, finding, I mean, I feel like they never really lost their momentum. I guess even in the Chelsea game, they had a pretty good performance. It's just one of those games where it just didn't go your way. But yeah, they sat third in the table, 2 points above Man City, so they still have that Champions League spot. But I think, yeah, the fight for the Champions League spot is going to be really spicy this season. The two
Yeah.
Champions League
Yeah.
spots, yeah.
I mean, I would say I feel like United. I can't see United losing that second spot now. Like I don't like. It's possible, but I feel like more than likely they will qualify for the Champions League. Maybe they can come third, but I don't see them losing out on a Champions League spot now.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, definitely for that third spot, that competition will be really hot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think I mentioned this in the watch along as well that United's last three fixtures are against Chelsea, City, and Arsenal.
Yeah.
So I feel like if United manage to keep everybody fit, then I think they have a really good shot at like
Yeah.
retaining a Champions League position. But yeah, but the fact is
No,
also
I'll
that.
tell you what. The thing is, United this season have kind of also proven to be big game players. Like that match against, like I would have agreed with you, but that match against City makes me think twice because that in that match against City, like they don't have to beat everyone. They don't have to beat Arsenal and Chelsea. They just have to beat City. Like
True.
that's a 6 pointer for them. And I feel like if City cannot recover, because City, something is wrong at City, So if City cannot recover back to their sort of original form, and Bunny Shaw doesn't come back swinging, then I think that City are in trouble. So at this point, with this form, I would say United beat City.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Okay, Ash, let's move on to Everton Leicester. This was a fun game. Everton Leicester finishing 4-1. Everton scoring four full goals. Can you imagine? Who would have thought this day would come? But Kelly Gago scoring in the 50th minute and the 69th minute. Katya Snow scoring in the 48th minute, and Honoka Hayashi scoring in the 57th minute, and the lone goal for Leicester coming from O'Brien in the 16th minute. Obviously, this was a super fun game. You managed to catch it fully. I obviously watched the highlights. Ash, tell me, please wax lyrical about Everton. This is your opportunity.
Yeah, honestly, like it wasn't that Leicester were bad. Leicester were pretty organized. They managed to get the ball. They progressed the ball after that, losing that early goal. Momiki was good, but like Everton was just sensational. Like in this game, I always say that like the two most important positions on the pitch are goalkeeper and striker because they often start and then end the play. And this was exactly that. Like the introduction of Kelly Gago has transformed this team. Like Gago's such a live wire, even when she's not scoring. Like in the second Snoyer's goal, she's like basically collecting the ball in midfield and like running at like breakneck speed, carrying it all the way to the box in a brilliant run. Like I have no notes. Just a perfect performance from her. Ball carrying ability, hold up ability, conversion, pressing. Like this is a complete striker. And like and what she's done is she's made everyone else look better as well. Like because she's constantly like pushing the Leicester backline, it makes Payne and Snoyes look even more effective because she's either dragging defenders with her or like they're helping her stretch the backline for gaps, right? And Snoyes is like able to play to her strengths and adopt a
Yeah.
kind of wandering role in attack because she's no longer the target person.
Yeah.
So like she has the ability to like get in those pockets and like feed the ball, etc. And like so she's finding and creating gaps and then supplying Pain and Gargo, right? And like Pain's speed and strength look better when there's someone to cross into. Like a target person makes all the difference. Like just all around fantastic. Like honestly, Leicester, at least for the 65th minute, were very organized. Like they didn't lose 4-1, like I said, because they were bad, but just because Everton was just so gosh darn good.
Yeah.
I mean, Everton were in such high spirits that Hayashi was pulling off tackles, which
Yeah.
I've rarely seen from her.
Oh,
Like these front three made the Everton midfield look so good. Like because
yeah.
Payne and Cargo did so much of the midfield work for them. Like they kept coming back into the midfield, collecting the ball and just like running with it. And they like both of them have so much strength that they were just like bullying the Leicester defenders. Like it was a joy to watch. It was a joy to watch Everton being so progressive and so free flowing. And like I have so like nothing but compliments.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, I'm honestly a bit, I was watching the highlights and I'm actually a little nervous. Um, because Chelsea have matches coming up against Everton now, so I'm feeling a bit nervous by this Everton side that seems a bit, rejuvenated after a couple of signings. But you know what? This is really good because when I was watching the highlights, I feel like the one thing that I've been waiting for it to happen this season, which is for Tony Payne to like play her best football basically, and that's just not happened. And like you said, it's because she's not had that target person to feed the ball to. Oftentimes, like obviously Tony Payne's strengths are like dribbling and also like carrying the ball at a fast pace, and what tends to happen in that Everton team is sometimes she's carrying the ball real fast, but basically she finds herself in the box or at the edge of the box with nobody to cross into. So to see that she's sort of able to do that now is actually really cool. I'm actually a pretty big fan of Ronnie Payne, so
I
hopefully
agree.
we.
Like she's a great, like she's so fast. Like I think she must have been the fastest. Like between Gago is also really fast. So between the two of them, like it's the perfect matchup because they match each other's speed. And it's a joy to watch because you could see Tony Payne was enjoying herself like
Yeah.
out there because she was like she was very confident on the ball. She was taking on her person. Like she was just like it looked like she's just like there to like run ragged through
Yeah.
Leicester. It was
Yeah.
wonderful to watch.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on from my compliments for Everton, and I'm not complimentary of them because they beat us in the cup or anything. Uh, but Aston Villa versus Chelsea, Chelsea won by 1 goal, and that was a mailing own goal. Pretty lackluster game, not one for the neutral. How did you feel about this guy?
Yeah, I was watching the Chelsea West Ham men's game and we needed an own goal winner in that as well. So I was thinking, one club mentality, man. But to be fair to the women, I feel like this was more of like a it was more of a forced own goal, you know, like Mailing had no choice. She if she hadn't uh, like tried to intercept that or block that, like she had to go charging in, and it was just quite unfortunate. It was just a brilliant run from Myra Ramirez. But yeah, overall, I mean, not much to say. I felt like Chelsea's midfield looked really poor, and um, Villa's midfield actually managed to break up play a little bit, but also Villa were really hard to break down. And I think it's really interesting because this is their first match under Natalia Arroyo, and it
In the
was
WSL.
in the WSL, yeah, and it was good to see her on the touchline. You know, she looks like she means business, um, and I thought it was a really good like performance from Villa. Like they were really hard to break down generally, yeah, I mean, see, the thing is, both teams had only two shots on target, which pretty much sums up the game. I think it was a bit scrappy. Villa had this one big chance where Hampton just passed the ball straight to a Villa player, and then Gabby Nunes tried to lob her, but the lob was not high enough. So Hampton did like one of those basketball moves where she just like caught the ball in the air, which is, I guess, lucky for her and lucky for Chelsea. The other big save, the only other thing that Hampton had to do was this really, really good save actually from her, where Kirsty Hansen, like, uh, shot from like the edge of the box, and she just got her fingertips to it, and then it hit the bar and it went off the bar. So beyond that, like Villa also did not offer too much going forward. In terms of Chelsea's setup, though, so it was a bit experimental from Bompastor. Like, so you basically had Lauren James playing like the false nine, and I will say this, and I've said this before. Just stop with the LJ false nine thing. Like we just have to stop it. Just stop it. Because I have seen this before. We've all seen this before. Last season when Sam Kerr got injured, it's just, it's just yucky, to watch. I can't put it any better way. It was just not like it. I want to gouge my eyes out. And Katrina Macario was playing in the 10. She was dropping deep, sometimes interchangeably, sometimes, obviously LJ was dropping a little deep to pick up the ball, but like for me it just did not work at all. And for us, I think for Chelsea, the difference was Myra coming off the bench and Micah Hamano coming off the bench. They were really good. um, Beyond that, I just like, yeah, the other big thing is Kira Walsh also coming off the bench. She had about 15 minutes or so, and you know what? She did what she does best, like control the tempo of the game. Even in those like whatever 12, 15 minutes that she did play, you could see what she can potentially offer to this Chelsea lineup. But yeah, it was just yeah, I think, in terms of the lineup, I think what really sums it up is what Sonia Bopasa said in a press conference. She said her starting 11 did not work well, and that's completely on her, that she took full responsibility for it not working well, which means clearly like they were experimenting with something. But you know what? No excuse for like some of those players having such like poor performances. Like Guru Wrighton was pretty dreadful, and Beaver Jones was okay. Obviously, Vika Captain did not have a great game, so she had to get subbed out. I mean, she had to be hooked. Like I was screaming for it to happen. But yeah,
So, I have a question. Do you think that, like Chelsea's just reached that place where Sonia Bompastor is like, okay, we pretty much like going to win the league. We have enough of a points buffer that, a game here and there won't matter. And we have all these midweek games. Like, do you think that she's just like now just taking it easy in the league? Because like resting both Myra and Canarid seems to suggest that she is. And like there are a lot of like midfielders in Chelsea. Like Jean Francois, for example, has been having good performances in the cup games, right? But
yeah.
like she's not really giving them a try. so to speak.
Yeah.
So like, do you think it's a case of like she's just conserving everybody for the cups, and like she's kind of like, okay, I got the league down now.
Yeah, I think you know what her explicitly speaking about it, saying that the starting 11 that she put together did not work out, suggests that like experimenting was was in the cards. You know, there was an experimentation that was going on. So it's very clear that that's what Sonia's doing, because obviously cup games are knockout games, and as you like go further in the cups, like you don't get that opportunity to rotate too much. So yeah, obviously, I think in the league we are 7 points clear at the top, so we can afford to drop, say, 2 points. We could have drawn this game, and we would have still been 5 points clear. So I get where she's coming from, and I think we might see this sort of chopping and changing a lot more in the league games. Surely, you're bang
Yeah,
on there, yeah.
but like credit to Chelsea, like they got through, so it's
Yeah, I mean, somehow, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, you have the quality of
yeah,
like
mark
Myra.
of champions.
Yeah, I mean, and also a loaded bench. But yeah, anyway, let's move on to Spurs versus United. Ash, I tried to watch this game. I really did. It was a 12:15 a.m. kickoff, like for us in India. I mean, obviously, Turlin scored in the 6th minute, and I watched until about the 20th minute before I gave up. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So please do enlighten us what went down at the Tottenham Hotspur
Listen,
Stadium.
I am absolutely livid about this game, like positively fuming. Like, Robert Wilhelm has a midfielder in Olga Artinen sitting on his bench, rotting on his bench. And like, you brought her, Robert. Like, she's your player. Like, she played for you and you brought her to Spurs. And now you're leaving her rotting on the bench and you're playing anyone you like in the midfield out of position. Like, Rybrink, who is a centre back, is playing midfield, which is like whatever. But also, you have one successful goal scorer, right? Bethany England. That's your only goal scorer. And that means she should be the furthest player on the pitch for Spurs. She cannot be supplying the ball to others to score. Neither Naz nor Raso are going to score. You know it, I know it, right? Uh, she's it. Like, why would you stick Thomas up top in England behind her? Like, Thomas was invisible. She had 21 passes in this game, but even that feels like a lot because I would not have noticed if that 21 was zero. Like,
Yeah.
seriously. And I will give despite my criticism of Naz, I will give her this. She was perhaps the best player, the best Spurs player, because she was like running back, trying to defend, get the ball, try to progress it. Like, she was trying something. Like, I didn't come off fine, but like at least she was trying. Nobody else looked like they were trying at all. And what
Yeah.
makes me angry is that United were not particularly good either. Like, the Turland goal was a great like volley and an exceptional shot. But like the Spurs defenders were literally just ball watching for that goal. It was totally preventable. And after that, like United had most of the ball and they barely did anything with it. Like Spurs were just totally ineffective in attack. And the one time they got a decent chance, the ball fell to Hunt of all people and ended up
Oops.
straight in the arms of like Dallas Joyce. And like United really stank up the place, like with Skinner ball. Like they did absolutely nothing. Like they had two shots on target, okay, one of which was the goal. So
Yeah.
this game was definitely not one for the neutral. Like credit to United, a win is a win, and like they managed to like convincingly keep their one goal lead,
Yeah.
and without attempting to score a second goal. So like whatever, like it worked out for them, but it was just one of those games, like if I was a United fan, I would be angry with my team as well, even though they be won, because you should expect better from your team. Like this
Yeah.
was just one of those like Spurs was so bad that United looked good sort of situation.
Right. Ash, I just wanted to quickly bring up the Mark Skinner comments that happened. I think he was asked about the development of clubs like Manchester United and Tottenham, and he said there is weight that goes with being a Manchester United team. No disrespect to Tottenham, but we are the biggest club in the world. I know you did not take these comments well. What do you have to say?
Like, I tell you what, you know what? If you were the, since you are the biggest club in the world, why aren't you competing with like you should be competing for the title. If that's the case, you should be competing for the title. You have as many fans as Chelsea, don't you? Like you have as much money as Chelsea, don't you? Like I like it's absolutely ridiculous to be talking about being the biggest club in the world. And you know what? I agree. United is one of the, like it is one of the biggest clubs in the world. He's not saying something that's wrong. It's the way that he says it and his face when he says it. Okay, like I'll tell you something. Like, you know, when you're like when you put a lot of like money into your women's team, investment into your women's team, you build around your women's team, then you can be like, oh, we have weight in United and you know we're the biggest club in the world. And you say that as a Spurs fan, I won't even feel bad because our management sucks. They are not doing that for our team. We've only devolved since last year, so I can understand making those comments. But you know, you can't. Your management can't even build a stadium, and you have put you practically made the women's team homeless briefly in the summer. Okay, because the men were practicing in the women's facilities, and literally your management has come out and said that we don't care about the women's team. Like literally, you have come out and said that in not so many words. So
Yeah,
I'm sorry, like once you make those priorities clear, then you can't say there's weight to United and
yeah,
all of that. Like it's one thing to say that when you're sitting at the top of the table or challenging for the league, and then being like, oh, you know, United are this storied club with great history and all of that, which is absolutely true and like acceptable. But and it's so like, even if you feel that way, like it's so disrespectful to Tottenham to make, like why make those statements? Like just don't now. Nobody's edging, like no one said tell me the difference between Spurs and
yeah,
United. Like that was not the question, right? Like you just didn't have to fall into trouble. Like this is my problem with Skinner. Like what is the point of making these statements when you don't have to? Like
yeah.
I agree that Spurs is a smaller club. Like I'm not even discounting that, but that doesn't mean that you have to be like so like insufferable about it.
Yeah, and you know what's funny about this? Like earlier, the thing I find very annoying about Mark Skinner is earlier in the season when United got a bunch of draws, and I mean, till now their only loss has been to Chelsea, but they did get like I think 3 or 4 draws earlier on in the season, and at that point he was saying, "Oh no, we are a small team. Like we've just come up." We've just been promoted. It's just been 4 years. We are a young team, etc., etc. And
New
suddenly,
midfield.
yeah, new midfield, new team, new everything, and now suddenly they're winning, and his like response to that is to say, "Oh, the badge, we are the biggest club in the world," etc. Again, it's just, yeah, it's just very very annoying how he does
Yeah.
this ping ponging between like putting the players down and then praising the club and not really backing the players when like your ownership comes and says ridiculous things about how they don't care about the women's team. Like as a manager you should be like backing your women's team, and he's never done
Yeah.
that, so that's very annoying.
Yeah, absolutely. And very disingenuous on his part. Uh
Yeah,
but like anyway, I'm gonna my anger aside from this game, to we'll move on to the Brighton versus Palace game, which will ended 1-1 with a Lily Woodham own goal and a Kato 88th minute goal. Um, so this was we kind of called this in our predictions.
yeah.
Kai, how does it feel to be right?
It feels, you know what, it doesn't feel great to be honest because of how the game went down. I mean, honestly, upfront, I would say Brighton should be disappointed. They were at home. Um, Ideally, they should beat Palace at home. But I mean, the game state was such. I felt like Brighton going forward in this game looked better than they have in the last few games. So, in that sense, that is definitely a positive that they can take away. But I think the game changer was just Macy Simons getting that red card in the 48th minute. Until then, I think Brighton got that fairly early lead. It was I think the own goal. I can't remember when the own goal was, but it was in the 18th minute or so, and and it was a terrible own goal. It was just like it was a back pass that the goalkeeper should have controlled. But
Yeah.
I also get it, like the sun was in her face, like it was very sunny. So I don't know if it was like she couldn't see the ball and therefore. But there was a lot of weight on that back pass, and it just like went from under her foot, rolled into the goal. It was very sad. Uh, but Brighton did create enough. I thought they looked better going forward. McLaughlin for me was the best player on the pitch, and I'm increasingly becoming a big fan of McLaughlin. I think she's a very very good. I think she's a centre back, but she's doing a good job for Brighton in the midfield. Um, with regards to the red card, I felt listen, the camera is just so dreadful. It's just so dreadful in that stadium. Like I can't, like I saw it. It looked like Simons went in pretty rash. It looked from that far away that it was a studs up challenge. First look and second look, it doesn't matter. First, second, third look, the camera is so bad, it doesn't matter. But I did feel like it was a fair call. I thought the challenge was pretty rash, but Vidicic felt like it wasn't a red. He said, I think in the post match, he mentioned that there were similar challenges in throughout the game that went kind of unpunished or were not punished with the same kind of severity. Which yeah, I think it was a fairly physical game overall. I definitely felt that.
Yeah.
Pattinson looked good going forward. Bremer was okay. I think for Palace, I thought Mikato had a very good game. I thought she was very effective in that midfield. She, won a lot of her jewels, and I think she definitely kept Palace in the game on a lot of occasions. Did not like without turning over the ball or winning the ball in the right places.
Yeah.
Lexi Potter also, I think, it wasn't her best performance because we've seen Lexi Potter be that sort of like that linchpin in that Palace midfield, really controlling the
Yeah.
game. This wasn't one of those games for her, but I still think she did just enough. But yeah, I think the red card just meant that Palace came back into the game a lot more in the second half.
Yeah.
Until then, I thought even though Brighton did not create a ton of chances, I feel like they should have gone a couple of goals up in the first half, but they just couldn't
Yeah.
finish. I just yeah, in the second half, I felt like because they were a player down, Palace managed to get back into the game. But again,
Yeah.
they did not like threaten Brighton too much. But it was a bit chaotic. Like I wouldn't say Brighton managed to control the game, uh, like in
You
any
know, I
capacity.
feel like without Fran Kirby, Brighton looked like less in control. Like the minute Fran Kirby comes back, I feel like some of these problems might get sorted out.
Yeah, let's hope because I mean, I don't know where she's at with her fitness, but again, once she comes back, they'll be managing minutes, etc., etc. So I don't know if they'll get her fast enough. I feel like time is running out for Brighton a little bit. Like they need
Yeah.
to get back to their form, otherwise they'll actually lose out on that fifth
Yeah,
place to
to be fair, who is
Spurs.
challenging them? Like Spurs are clearly not, and
Yeah,
Villa are really far behind.
yeah,
Uh, uh,
true.
like
Liverpool also pretty far behind. I think they're
yeah,
like, I don't know now. I think maybe 4 points behind them. Not sure. But yeah, but there was this one moment like deep into the game. This was after Palace had equalized. McLaughlin put in this beautiful ball in for Oli Slagers, who pretty much like I mean she had like a defenders on either side, but yeah, she should have scored that. It went off the post. It's really unfortunate, but had she scored that, that would have been a fantastic goal. I was watching that and I was just like, oh no, why did this happen? They could have gotten all 3 points, but okay, fair enough. It's still a
yeah. I
point.
think
I think, yeah, it's been hard for Brighton in the league this like since the turn of the year, so maybe they'll take it. It's fine.
yeah. And let's not forget that they didn't expect to be up there in the table, So I think it's a little bit of sort of coming back to form as well, like coming back
Hmm.
to where they're. technically at in terms of development, like with the new
Yeah,
manager.
yeah, they're coming back to their mean in some ways, right? Like
Yeah,
statistically
yeah,
speaking. Yeah.
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 Okay, moving on to Liverpool versus West Ham, which ended 1-0. Kane scoring in the 33rd minute. Uh, this was actually deceptively a sort of fun game, I think. Kai, what did you think?
Yeah, I also felt that way. Like, it was exciting at times. You know, West Ham obviously are a team that can counter really well. And they did have their moments, but so therefore it was a bit end to end at times. But yeah, I largely I felt like Liverpool controlled the game. I don't know why. I think sometimes watching West Ham, in my head, I feel like it's more exciting than it actually is, because I do feel like in transition they are like a wonderful team. I'm a big fan of Vivasai. I think she's a wonderful player, and I think Pubel is also somebody who's been impressive for West Ham. Um, but yeah, ultimately the thing is they had zero shots on target.
Yeah.
So they didn't manage to create two. I think there were like one or two opportunities. I think Asai had one at the back post with Pebble crossing it in, but beyond that, I can't remember anything clear cut for West Ham. Liverpool, I thought this was a more controlled performance from them. They actually, I feel like again, Liverpool, Villa, uh, like maybe Villa not, yeah, Villa as well. Like, you know, off late they've been struggling a bit to create. Brighton as well. These are teams that are not necessarily at the bottom of the table, but in the middle of the pack. Spurs as well, not really creating enough. And I felt like for Liverpool, this was one of those games where they actually managed to create a little bit more, maybe because they had more control of the ball and
Yeah.
control of the game in general. I thought Kerry Holland, again, I think she's had like back to back good games now. And I'm actually intrigued by that Liverpool midfield now. Since Sam Kerr has come in, Fuka Nagano has been on the bench, and I don't know. I didn't feel like Sam Kerr had the best game. I think
I've
she.
been feeling that for apart from the previous game, I've been feeling like that about Sam Kerr in general. Like, I didn't
Mhm.
think that her performance, I think it was with Brighton, was her first game. I didn't think it was particularly great. And I don't know, maybe she's just like working herself into the team. But
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely something to be considered, right? Like she's a new player who's just come into a new club on loan. So all these are factors. So, and she's like come from Munich. So there's a lot of settling in, etc. Getting used to the league as well. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting how Matt Beard takes it from here. You have Julia Bartel who can slot in there. You obviously have Fuka Nagano, who I am a big fan of. Like I really think she's a uh, probably like a very underrated player in that Liverpool midfield. Um, yeah, I think West Ham. I think obviously there was that Tiziak's suspension because of a red card. So Nystrom actually started the game. I think she's just signed for West Ham, right? And
yeah,
off the bat, she kind of started the game. I don't know how much that played into the whole thing. I think she was decent for first league game. I think she did a decent job. Yeah, I think overall Liverpool could have scored maybe one more goal. Um, you know, I'm actually feeling optimistic about Liverpool.
yeah,
Although, like, it's a club that frustrates me a lot because they are a massive club and with a lot of money and not really investing in their women's team. And it seems like they've not really learned from their mistake of, not doing that, getting relegated and then getting promoted again. And now they've, like, for a manager who finished fourth last season to say that, hey, like, we don't have money, it's really unfortunate. And
yeah.
like the club should like take a hard look at themselves, like, because this is not how it should be run.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. They're one of the biggest clubs in the world. Like,
Yeah,
uh, they have so much money, and they're run by a financial group that manages their money really well. So you would imagine that they would have more money than someone like United, for example, who manages the club terribly.
yeah,
So it makes no sense to me. And last season we had that, right? We had Liverpool competing neck and neck with United.
yeah.
So uh, I would like to see it. And, like of all the teams who are, like, to me right now, just on form, with Brighton falling off and Spurs falling off and Villa being whatever they're doing, Liverpool are the best of the rest, like for me currently, like just on this weekend. You know, it
Yeah,
it just they should be further up the table.
I agree. I feel like, I'm honestly feeling a bit optimistic about Liverpool. They've got a couple of loan moves that have happened, all of them decent players. And then you also have players coming back from injury. Hoping up did start the game, but did not have. I don't think she was able to make the kind of impact that she usually does. But that's fair enough. She's coming back from injury, so that's fine. But yeah, I'm honestly feeling pretty hopeful about Liverpool. But I also feel like the gap might be too big for them to catch up. I'm not very sure. So basically, right now, Liverpool are on 15 points and Brighton are on 18 points. Okay, they
Yeah,
can
it's
actually
not
catch
too
up.
big. It's just
Yeah.
a game here and there.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I think they have a real shot at finishing fifth.
Yeah.
But then again, we'll have to see what the drop off is like for Brighton and Spurs. I feel like have just like straight up stagnated, just
Spurs have
like
fallen off a cliff. They have not
cliff. Okay.
stagnated. They are
Okay.
just like
Sorry. Yeah. Uh, yeah. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think the everything except for the top of the table looks exciting at this point, like the
yeah.
very top, like the 7 points clear. But the relegation is still interesting. The middle of the table is still interesting. The Champions League spots all looking very exciting in the coming weeks. I think there are 10 more game weeks left, so it's going to be fun. Yeah. All right. So we have spoken far too long, I think, about game week 13, but fair enough. It was an exciting game week. But to all of you listening and watching out there, please make sure you subscribe to our channel, leave some comments, tell us what you thought of game week 13, tell us what you thought about the penalty that was given in favor of Man City against Arsenal. And also, yeah, tell us about the teams that you support and where you think they're headed for the rest of the season. But yeah, we will catch up with you soon. We're not quite sure, but we will catch up with you soon. Until then, it's bye bye from us.